These guys are ridiculous. These guys are ridiculous.
Now, how about them damn Celtics?
Jumping back around to the Celtics, something I have on the show sheet here is they're kind of in a shooting slump. I mean, throughout the first 20 games of the season, it was all Celtics can't miss, best offense in league history. Is this sustainable, et cetera. And while I think their great shooting is sustainable, they were bound to hit a slump of some sort eventually. Derek White's kind of fallen off a little bit. Sam Hauser's fallen off. Marcus Smart, who was hot for a while, he's not shooting as well. Even Grant Williams is shooting like 36% over these last 4 games, which is league average, but considering he was shooting 50% to start the year, it's not as good. I see, you see on Twitter a lot of people complaining, oh, this wasn't never sustainable, blah, 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 complaining. The world is ending, of course. For me personally, it's less concern about the slump and more concern about how the Celtics are responding live to the shooting woes, right? Like they're turning the ball over, they're changing the way they play offense, they're not hustling as much on defense. You heard Tatum say it after the game last night against the Magic. We're not playing with the same energy when we're not shooting well and we're letting it affect us. What concerns you most about the Celtics offensive woes, and how do you think they move forward from it?
Yeah, it's what you said. It's that they allow too many things to take them out of their game, whether it's officiating and feeling they're not getting calls, and that's starting to creep back in after mostly a year of it getting better. It's been really unfortunate to see them continue to go to pieces when they feel like things aren't going their way. That's you would hope after a finals run that they would have gotten past that, and they just haven't. And it's it really is unfortunate at times. But the most worrisome thing for me is when the ball stops moving, when the players stop moving, when it turns into 1 or 2 pass possessions, search out a screen, and then I'm going to hold it and isolate. I mean, they had possessions in the losses on the road trip where it was one guy held the ball without even dribbling it for 10 seconds with a series of jab steps while nobody else moved. And that's just it's not good offense. It's not good basketball. Last night, they generated something like 41 open to wide open 3-point shots. So they still got great looks. They just didn't make them. And, for me, stick with it. Stick with what works there. Even if they're not going down, that's who you are. Sometimes you're not going to hit them and you're going to lose games. It'll happen, but you can't go through these pieces where you really feel like, all right, well, we don't know what to do now, so let's just throw it to the main guys and isolate like that. That just gets too messy. And, the carelessness with the ball too, when it creeps back in. Jaylen Brown, egregious last night against the Magic. He had 7 turnovers, and by my count, in the first quarter alone, he had 4 more that he got bailed out on. Either somebody else came up with the loose ball or he recovered it twice himself. Like that's way too many. Like once you get up over 2-3 as a single player, that's rough, and you're not going to have a good offensive production when you're turning it over like that.
Yeah, I definitely get more frustrated with the 3-point shooting than most, but I agree.
Really? Do you?
Maybe, are
you frustrated with
people? But I get the most upset, like you said, Keith, when they're really not working to get shots and it's lazy offense and it's 1 or 2 passes and then they chuck. When you are working the shot clock, you're running offense, you're moving around, and then you're creating those shots, it's fine. Some days they don't fall. Yesterday was one, and it was just a recipe for disaster yesterday with the Celtics. They were missing shots. They were mad at the officials. Everything that gets under their skin happened, and they didn't respond well. But I get the most upset probably when they pass up good looks inside for a 3. There was a play, and Brogdon made the shot, one of the 2 that they made all night, it felt like. But Rob is on the block with a guard. It might have been Cole Anthony in front of him, between him and the rim, and he passed out to Brogdon for 3 instead of dunking. And they're trying to come back. I was beside myself. I don't like when they elect to kick out of the paint, even if they have a decent look for a 3.
Yeah, my issue with Rob is you're never going to throw it to Rob on the block with anybody on him because he has no moves. Doesn't have anything he can go to there, and that's fine, right? I mean, he maybe that'll eventually develop for him. I'd love to see him have just even a turn and face and one dribble and power through a guy or a little jump hook or something. But I'm never gonna throw it to him on the block because I don't care who's guarding him unless he literally has him pinned under the basket and all he needs to do is turn and dunk. that's a different story. And I know it was funny. I saw some people, complain. I think it's one of the Brogdon plays you were mentioning, whereas like Rob kicked out of a dunk to throw it to Brogdon. Well, some of that's timing wise, but Rob did that the last 2 years too, where he catches it. If he's not comfortable on the roll, he'll usually pick out a shooter or a cutter and find the guy there. So I don't have a huge issue with that. And the reality is Brogdon made the shot. So I'm not sure what all the belly aching is, about it when corner three is a pretty good shot. It's for Malcolm Brogdon, who's one of the league leaders in 3-point shooting. It's not all that worse of a shot than Rob trying to put it in from an odd angle where he didn't catch it clean.
This is me putting my tinfoil hat on here, completely random, kind of, off to the side of this conversation. Again, tinfoil hat. Do you ever think there will be a point where Rob, not regularly, but shoots a three? Do you think Rob would ever be in that sort of? I'm just the only reason I say it is because like he shot some mid-range jumpers last year. This Celtics team, the offense is obviously a lot different. They shoot a lot of threes, and more so last year. You don't think he ever gets to the point where he's even attempting one to space the floor?
No, I mean, he shot a few mid-range jumpers, like maybe like 10 all year long, and that's fine. But I mean, we're miles away from him figuring something out, as far as anything goes. I'm looking at it right now. 20% of his shots came from 10 to 16 feet last year, so that's still probably right around the edges of the paint. So that's. I'm sorry, that's his field goal percentage. Attempts wise, 1%. From 10 to 16 feet, 1% from 16 to the arc. So I can't imagine there's ever going to be a point where we see him regularly shooting 3-pointers. He also doesn't seem to have the kind of the shot for that. He gets no lift on a shot at all. He doesn't really get real good arc on his shot. So it would take years and years of development for that to happen. And this is a guy who's now in, what's he in year 5 now? So,
I think so, yeah.
I mean, maybe, he's only 25. So maybe it comes, but I would, focus on what we do well. Sometimes we get so worried about what a player can't do that we overlook what they can do. And it's just do what you do versus trying to be, a shooter, because that's probably not going to go anywhere great.
Couldn't tell if you're talking about Rob or Ben Simmons there for a second.
Yeah. Dragged him in. Would you rather he develop some sort of jump shot or post moves?
Post moves. 100%. Because I'd rather he's able to duck in on the block against those smaller guys, and then you feel comfortable throwing it to him, and he can actually turn and get you something good inside from 5 feet and in. But right now, it's pretty much it's lobs, dunks, putbacks. That's what it's going to be, and I'm not complaining because he's great. With that, and you sometimes need guys that's what they do. It's not there's no complaint, but yeah, if you could on those mismatches where teams put a small on him. Yeah, get him to duck in around the rim. Yeah, that'd be great because any sort of just little jump hook or just turn and power over a guy, that'd be huge.
Yeah, getting back to the Celtics shooting slump a little, kind of like an offense-defense thing. Plus side, December, the Celtics are 4th in defensive rating in the league. The defense has turned it around after an early season of a lot of struggles. The downside is in December, they are 29th in offensive rating. And like we said, the shooting slumps will happen. Derek White, Sam Hauser, these role players not shooting the ball as well is obviously going to affect the offense. But to go from by far the best offense in the league to in December, the second worst offense in the league, like that's a pretty drastic change. And it feels like it's more than just a shooting slump for a few guys. What do you think is happening with the Celtics that when these role players are, in the shooting slump, how is the offense going from 1 to 29? Because like I said, it feels like more than just a slump.
Yeah, when guys aren't making shots, and we've seen it now. There were a few examples where Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum passed up what would have been kick out passes earlier this year to look for something different or to then hold it and dribble into a shot themselves. And that's where I think it all falls apart, because then it becomes, all right, if the role players aren't making the shots, I'm the star. I'm the guy who's supposed to get us over the hump here. So I need to do more. And then that turns into just a mess. And that's where, they get out of the game plan and those kind of things. And sometimes I'd rather see throw it out to the guy, play the right way, even if the result isn't good, than play basketball that's not what you're set up to play. I think too, where getting too much into looking at these December stats because I've seen a lot of people getting into that. Al Horford barely has played, right? He missed, what was it, 5 games in a row or whatever it was.
Yeah.
You didn't have Rob at all in that stretch, but even if you just go with the guys who were there, Horford's obviously hugely important to this offense, especially as a connector. Yeah, it was great. I loved the Blake Griffin, run there too, but I think they got basically everything you're going to get out of him. Now it's like maybe we'll go back to him playing once a week or so, and it'll be fine. But as they played some better teams without Al Horford, you saw just everything get a little bit harder on offense. And then, some of the shooters are slumping. Some of the guys are not hitting the shots that they hit earlier. But I would also argue Tatum and Brown haven't hit well from the outside all year long, or at least up to their own established levels. Like neither one of them has shot well. I want to say, let me look it up now to make sure I'm being accurate. Yeah, Jaylen Brown's at 34.5%, and Jason Tatum is at he's now up to 36% on the season, but 36% for Tatum's under his career mark, and then for Jaylen Brown, I want to say that's under his career mark as well. I know Jaylen had a little bit further to go to lift himself there, but he's at 37% career shooter. So those two guys haven't made shots at the level. Now they're taking tougher shots and those kind of things. So it's not good criticism because they're not in a bad place shooting wise, but it's just, that was what I thought would balance as some of the role players cooled off a bit. I thought Tatum and Brown's shooting percentages might tick back up into their normal range, but that hasn't happened yet. But it's, we're a third of the way through the season. There's still a lot of games to go yet.
Yeah. Tatum and Brown 3-point shooting hasn't been there. And like you said, I mean, just last night, I remember I was there watching it. I think I said something in the Celtics blog chat. Jaylen Brown goes on a fast break. Sam Hauser's wide open in the corner, and he just takes some turnaround spin layup. I don't even know how to describe it. It's frustrating to watch. And I think you saw it a lot on that California trip too. I mean, Golden State, LA. 3 games they probably should have lost all of them. I mean, I mean, they deserved to lose that Lakers game after the way they collapsed. But it's been frustrating to watch them kind of divert back to some of these 2021 tendencies. That's how I describe them. The start of last year.
If you do want silver lining, though, that first stretch of the game with Horford back, they did play well. But before they kind of gave up the lead. So to your point, Keith, like not having them or him for those 5 games and winning 2 of them on the road against division rivals is decent. It sucks that they lost 3 of the last 4.
Yeah,
but it proves that he is truly important to this team. Not only his ability to help the offense and stretch the floor, but his defensive versatility, being able to guard the perimeter. You don't see them having to play drop coverage like they did against the Warriors and Clippers because Blake Griffin's out there.
Yeah, I think anybody who thinks a 4-2 road trip is bad is insane. Like that's
Richard
not,
Jefferson.
These guys are not the the Warriors or the Bulls of those historic teams. They were never going to threaten 70 wins. And it was funny because I had a few people saying like, you think they could be all-time great? And it's like they've already lost like 4 games. Like those teams were losing their 4th game in like March. So like, no, I don't think they're going to be that good. It's just I think people's perceptions got a little bit warped. I also tend to think Boston fans are very spoiled. I think it's, unless you are winning every game, then you're terrible and you stink. And that's, it. And right now, I think people they're angry about a lot of things. So it's anytime, the Celtics or the Bruins don't come through for them, then they're getting even more mad. Right. Because it's like, hey, you guys are supposed to be the ones who are now carrying the city here. And it's like, they're 22-8. They still have the best record in the league. Hey, I get it. The Orlando game, I'm not going to try to say it's not a bad loss because it is. You should be beating teams at home like Orlando. There's no way around that. But you know what? Everybody has bad losses. The Bucks just lost by 40 to the Grizzlies in a game where Milwaukee played almost everybody. So I'm not exactly sure, where we go with that. It's, it's one of those things where it's, I guess for me, it's they lost. It happens. Sometimes teams lose games. It's not one of those things where you want to get too worked up over it one way or the other.
Taco, come on.
Taco's having some fun here.